There are over 230,000 car repair shops in the US, and most of them have no automation, no AI, and no 24/7 customer communication. That means millions of dollars slip through the cracks every single day just because mechanics can't keep up with their inbox. In this video, I'm gonna show you the AI-powered email and SMS triage agent that one automation pro sold to a local repair shop owner. This agent scans every customer inquiry the second it comes in, checks if the message has the right details, and if it doesn't, instantly fires back a reply asking for exactly what's missing. By the time the mechanic gets out of the shop, his inbox is full of quote-ready emails. No chasing, no wasted time, and thousands of dollars in recovered sales. And the best part? You can build this exact system yourself. We'll connect Twilio to n8n, drop in a large language model, set up guardrails for reliable responses, and ship a rock-solid agent that you could sell to your local mechanic tomorrow. Let's dive in. All right, so this workflow was based on this Reddit user's real experience. So true story, I went to an auto repair shop to sell them on voice AI for after hours, but the owner wasn't interested in that. Instead, he told me about another problem. He gets a lot of emails asking for quotes, but most don't include complete vehicle information. He only checks emails at night after work, so if info is missing, he just replies asking for details. Then he has to wait until the next evening to send the actual quote. He said he loses a lot of customers because of that delay. We set up a simple n8n automation for him when a new email comes in. If it looks like a quote request and has full vehicle info, the system sends him an SMS with short summary, new quote request, John, Honda Civic 2018, brake pads. If it's missing info, it automatically replies with a standard email asking for details. When the customer replies with the missing info, he gets another SMS. He still has to prepare the quote manually because he checks prices with different vendors, but at least now he knows right away when an email is worth looking at. It only took a few hours to build, been running for a couple weeks, and he says it's already helped him a lot. For automation folks, this might be another niche to sell automation. True, let's jump into the demo.
I want to kick this demo off and showcase two of the primary flows this AutoShop Gmail agent is going to be able to handle. Case number one is going to be the instance where one of our customers sends a message in that's pretty vague and doesn't give our AutoShop owner a lot of context on how they can even go forward with preparing a quote. An example like this is going to be an email that comes in where I just mention oil leak and say, hey, my oil is leaking. How much is it to fix it? We're not including any information like the make, the model, or more specific details about the problem. And so that's going to be tough for the shop owner to actually prepare a quote. So I'm going to send this off here, and then we're going to come back to n8n and run this workflow with the message we just received from our email trigger. The agent is then going to analyze that message and make a decision on what it needs to do next. As the agent executed, we can see that it used the think tool, and then it used this other tool here to send a follow-up message back to the customer asking for more information so this shop owner can prepare an accurate quote. So I'm going to go back to Gmail, and we can see we got a brand new reply here that we can show, and we get a message that says, hi Lucas, thank you for contacting us about your vehicle. To provide you with an accurate quote to fix the oil leak, I need a little bit more information about your vehicle. Could you provide the following details? The make, the model, the year. Once I have this, I can get a quote right over to you. Perfect. So this was a response that was immediately sent back to our customer. So there's no delay time here between the customer reaching out and us getting back to them. That goes a long way to help increase customer trust and increase the conversion rate for people coming to work with this auto shop. Let's now go to example number two, which is going to be the case here where a prospective customer messages in with a more detailed complaint or issue with their car. So I'm mentioning Jeep Patriot oil leak. And our message this time is going to be, hey, I have a 2011 Jeep Patriot that is leaking oil. I think it may be the oil gasket, as I've had issues with that before. Can you help me get it fixed? So this, on the other hand, is going to be a more detailed response that includes the year, the make, the model, all the context necessary for our shop owner to go ahead and start working on a quote for this customer. So I'm going to send this email off. We'll go back to n8n, trigger our automation, and the same trigger is going to get passed into our agent here. It's going to think about what to do. And in this case, since all of the information was included in that initial email to prepare a quote, I would expect a different tool to get used here where we send a notification email to the shop owner or shop manager and then go ahead and log that result in a Google Sheet. So this is using Twilio to send that off. And so if I pull it up here, we can see that we get a brand new text message that came in from our automation. And so we can see new quote request, Lucas Wyland, for a 2011 Jeep Patriot oil leak, possible oil gasket issue. And then we're going to include a link here to the email thread that has any other context provided to us by the customer. So then we have that full message here. That's going to make it easy for the shop owner to go ahead and jump into this quote process and get back to the customer. And after each execution here for the agent, we're going to go ahead and log what has happened here in a Google Sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we can see we have the timestamp, the sender, the subject, the message contents, along with the action taken by our agent throughout this whole process, so we can track what exactly has happened as incoming messages have been received. I want to get started here going over a brief system overview for the AutoShop agent we're going to be building and walk you through the 2 core requirements we have in place that really powered all of the decisions we made while going throughout this whole process and this agent build out. Starting with requirement number 1, this is going to be the requirement really from the first part of the demo in the case where a customer sends in a message to the AutoShop about some issue with their car, but they didn't include everything necessary for the AutoShop owner or manager to accurately diagnose and give back a quote on what needs to be repaired. This can be something like, missing year of the car, what car model it was itself, or a not very descriptive issue of what was going on. And if that's the case, we need to immediately follow up with this customer while they're still interested in order to get that information back from them. If we don't follow up instantly, this business is starting to hit an issue where they could lose this lead or lose this customer just by how long it takes to go back and forth. And so we want to get back to this customer instantly, and so they can give us the information we need. So what we're going to do here for this first part is go ahead and link our agent to a Gmail trigger that's connected to some shared inbox for this AutoShop. I'm just using Gmail for this setup, but this can be any sort of email node built into n8n or even a custom webhook if they have some sort of other email provider that doesn't have a direct n8n integration. This could be anything you need. After that is linked up and is going to trigger our automation, we're then going to go ahead and analyze our message to determine if all information has been included that's necessary for us to make a quote. If yes, we're going to go into requirement number 2, so I'll skip that for now. But if that information is missing, we need to go ahead and use this tool down below here to go ahead and send a follow-up email to that customer asking them for the information that they missed. And so this agent is going to write that, use this tool to send that message back to the customer. And finally, we're going to go ahead and log that action taken to our Google Sheet here that a follow-up email has been sent. So we can just trace through every email that came in and every decision this agent has made. Going down below to requirement number 2, this is going to be the case where a customer messages in, but it is actually a detailed message that includes all the context needed to prepare an accurate quote. That includes all of the context needed for our AutoShop to come back to the customer with an accurate quote. And so we're going to be using that exact same Gmail trigger as before. The system prompt of this agent is going to be responsible for analyzing that message and making a decision here. But instead of sending a follow-up email back to that customer, we're going to be using a different tool here where we actually send a notification to the shop owner or shop manager that a new quote request has came in and all of the details are ready. We're going to be sending a simple SMS here using Twilio's API, which is this communication platform that essentially lets you send text messages over HTTP requests. And so that's going to power our notification system here in this tool. And then once again, if all of that information is present on that initial message, we're going to go ahead and log that action again to our Google Sheet here. So that covers it for the overview here. Let's go through the node by node build out for this Gmail agent. We're now back inside n8n, and let's get started here with the trigger to this whole system. So what we've set up here is a very simple Gmail node that I'm using for my inbox to be connected. But once again, you can use any sort of email node here to power your automation. This is really going to depend on the client that you're working with and how they have their email configured. And so most likely this is going to be some kind of shared customer support or help center or shared inbox that is managed by the company. You're going to have to find a way to hook into. I'm just using Gmail here for this instance, which is really easy to connect. So if you're setting this up for the first time, go ahead and create a new credential, go ahead and name it what you want, and then go through the sign in with Google Flow to link your Gmail inbox into n8n to power your automations just like this. So I'm going to keep mine as I have it set up already and then go forward with the next steps. Since this trigger isn't event-based, we're going to go ahead and use a pull time here set to every minute. So this inbox is refreshing every single minute in order to pull in the latest messages. Our goal with this automation and this agent is to get back to our customers as quickly as possible. And so I'm using the lowest value that I can here. Up next, I'm going to be using this message received event, which is the only option here for the Gmail trigger, but this may change in the future. Basically, it's just as the title says, when we receive a message into our inbox, we're going to use the data from this message to get passed into the user message of our agent later in the workflow. The other thing I want to make note of here is I actually turned off the simplify toggle option right here so I could get access to all of the message data that was included from Gmail. This is important so we can get the full text content of the message that was sent to us in case it's a long message. Otherwise, you're only going to see a small preview of the message data that comes through, and so this is an important thing to turn that off. Let's now move forward to the next step, which is going to be the main brain of our agent here, responsible for making decisions and calling into the different tools we have set up for this full automation. So I'll pull this up here and we can quickly look at the user message prompt because this is going to be the simpler of the two. For our user message, all we're going to be doing is passing in the context from our Gmail message and then formatting it nicely so it can work together well with our LLM. So we're going to include things like our message ID, thread ID, who the sender is, what the subject is, what the timestamp is, and finally, we're going to go ahead and grab the text content of that full email here so the LLM and the agent are going to be able to make a decision and do further processing on this. That's it for the user message. And when I come down to the bottom here, this is where we're going to define our system message that really has the full workflow and kind of the flow chart built out for how this agent needs to make a decision for all the different scenarios and requirements we were talking about from before. So if you've seen a couple of our other videos before, we follow a pretty similar prompt structure for all of the agents we're building, where we define our role up top, we get into the core responsibilities of the agent, and then we dive into what is the workflow that this agent needs to follow based off the user message it has received. So I'm not going to go through each of these step by step, but I will call out some important parts here for how we thought through structuring this prompt. So step one, the first thing that happens on any trigger or any call into this agent is always going to be analyzing the message that was received. So the metadata that we passed in from before, along with our full message body. Then we're going to ask this agent to use our think tool, which is actually a tool built into n8n that allows the agent to really use its own scratchpad to think through how it wants to solve the problem that has been given to it. I like to include this in all of the agents that I build just to increase the reliability of this agent as it's working through maybe more complex scenarios that are not as straightforward. Coming back down below here, we're going to say go ahead and use our think tool to analyze and extensively think through how to process this message. So we're going to say plan out your analysis, break down the email content, and reason through whether the message is auto repair related. That's another part of this that I didn't touch in the overview. Is this a real customer message coming in? For instance, if somebody is sending us like an advertising message or is trying to sell something to us, that's not really a case where we need to reply to. And so that's going to be one of the first thinking steps here is deciding, do we actually need to reply to this email or not? Let's go down a little bit further and get into some of the other steps. Step 3 here is where we're going to fulfill requirement number 1 that we were talking about before, is where we try and analyze and determine if the customer has provided all necessary information for us to get them back an accurate quote. That's where we detail this in step number 3, is where we check if the information has been provided completely to us. So this is where we break down the required information. This may change depending on the client you're working with, but for us, we need the make, the model of the year, and a description of a specific part or specific issue that has been flagged by the customer. If we don't know what's wrong and we don't know what car it's for, there's no way we're going to be able to come back and prepare an accurate quote. In step number 4, this is going to be where we define a decision tree where the agent needs to kind of split off how it's going to handle what has been passed into it. Has all the complete information been provided, or has there been missing information? And so on these 2 paths, we're going to outline what tools need to get used. And so if the complete information has been provided, we're going to use our send notification message tool, which is going to text our shop owner. If it hasn't been provided, we're going to use our send follow-up email tool to go ahead and send a reply back to our customer, asking them for more details. Once again, this is going to be an email that gets sent back to the customer immediately. So while the customer is thinking through this auto problem, we're able to get back into their inbox and help us get them an accurate quote. This is the main part of our system prompt here, where we define how the agent needs to take specific action steps depending on the data passed in. As we go down below, we define some more context, like what is the appropriate method of communicating back with our customers. So we have this simple template passed in where we break down how the email needs to get constructed. And then at the very end here, there's some other guidelines we have our agent follow, like how do we log the information that has been received, some professional communication guidelines, and then really expand on how the tools need to get used. And so I would encourage you to go ahead and download this n8n template to read through this prompt and tinker with it to see if you can extend it for your own use case. Just make sure you join our school community linked below in the first comment of this YouTube video in order to get in there. It's completely free, and we give the JSON for all these templates that we're covering. That covers it here for the main brain of our n8n AI agent. Let's now move on to the tools we have set up. We've already covered the Think tool, and that's going to be something, once again, I highly recommend you include in your agents. So let's move on to the other ones. Send follow-up email is going to be the tool that's responsible for immediately replying back to the customer or client that is messaged in when there's incomplete information. So this is a built-in Gmail tool. So if you search for Gmail on the right-hand side here, it's just Gmail tool, and you can set up your same credential from before. So once you have that dragged in and connected up to your agent, we're going to be going through the same credential. We're going to use the set automatically option under tool description, and we're going to be using the message resource and reply operation in order to indicate we're going to reply back to that same email thread that has been sent in to us. Message ID, we're going to let the model define that automatically. And so we say the email message ID that the customer originally sent in. And so if you remember from before in our user message, that's where we're setting all this metadata. So our agent knows how to extract that correct ID in order to reply back to our customer. Very important you note that and are including that here in your user message. Otherwise, the AI model is going to either error out or hallucinate some ID here, and then you're just going to get an invalid email or some error when it tries to send it back to your customer. So very important you're constructing proper context in your user message as all this data flows throughout the system. The other part we have here is going to be the email type. We're going to send a simple text email. No need to get fancy here. And finally, under message, we're going to let the model automatically define this. We want our AI agent to be responsible for drafting the email message according to the template we built out from before. And we're just going to add an additional description here just to make it a little bit easier for our AI agent to know how to match that template we want them to reply with to this field on our send follow-up email tool. So we just mentioned this as the helpful response generated and written to help out the customer with their inquiry or question. That covers it for the send follow-up email tool. Let's now move on to our send notification message tool. As a reminder, this is going to be the tool that gets used when we want to ping the auto shop owner or manager with a notification they are ready to process a new quote request. Like I mentioned from before, we're going to be using Twilio as this tool in order to send text messages, but this can really be any kind of messaging platform as long as it works for your client. So this is something when you're going through discovery with your client, make sure you have an understanding of how they communicate internally and what's going to work out best for them. This can be easily swappable with something like Slack, another email, or even WhatsApp in order to send messages and notify the people or person who needs to receive this. Now, let's go forward here with the setup we did for this tool. And so I'll open this up. I already have a Twilio credential set up here, but if you're building with Twilio for the first time, you can just click here, create new credential, and go through the setup process to get connected with Twilio. So we'll set a name here, so Twilio API, and we're going to need to grab our account SID and an auth token in order to connect. So let's come over here to Twilio to see if we can get this set up and get that API key. So I've already created an account, but if you're going through this for the first time, go to console.twilio.com, go through that sign up process, and you're going to see a page that looks like this. I'm now going to go to admin, go to account management, and then go under API keys and tokens to create a new API key. Click create API key, and we're just going to give it a name. So n8n test. I'm going to leave these as default and then click on create. This is going to give us our SID here, so we'll copy this, paste it back in, and then we're going to grab our auth token, which is going to be the secret value right here. So we can paste that in. I'm going to leave this as all right now, and then I'll click save. That's all there is to it to getting set up with the Twilio API. The next thing we need to do is go forward with the different resources and operations we need to configure to send a text message. I'm going to use the SMS resource. I'm going to use the operation set to send, We need to configure a from and a to phone number to actually send this SMS message. From is a number I've actually gone forward with registering under my Twilio account. And so if you come back to Twilio, develop, phone numbers, manage, active numbers. If you have a number already under here, you can go ahead and grab that number, but more likely than not, you need to go forward with getting set up with your first one. So I just went through the buy a phone number option, and I'm on the trial right now, so I didn't actually have to pay anything here. Go ahead and pick out your phone number and go through those initial registration steps. The next thing I did was actually go underneath the messaging tab, then clicked on virtual phone to go ahead and get a virtual receiving phone number in order to listen to the messages that are getting sent out. If you're configuring this for a production use case using Twilio, in order to send and receive real text messages, there is a couple of verification steps you're going to have to go through with your business. And so that can take some time, and you'll have to go through Twilio's approval queue. But while you're testing your automation, you can come under it, again, this messaging virtual phone tab, to send messages from the phone number you just purchased, and then receive messages to this virtual phone right here in order to test out if your automation is working. And so I'm going to choose our sending number from before, so we can go ahead and copy this, paste that into the from field we have right here, and then underneath to, we need to go back to our virtual phone tab here in Twilio and use the one provided on screen to us. And so if we copy this and paste that back here into n8n, we're going to have those values set up. Once you have that configured, you're going to be able to run and test your automation, and then any text messages that get sent and received here will appear here on your virtual phone, so you can make sure everything's working as expected. When it comes time to release this to production, you need to set to here to the phone number of the shop owner or who wants to receive this notification, and go through those verification steps that I mentioned on Twilio if you want to do this SMS route. Once again, you could also use a different tool here for sending messages if you don't want to deal with that verification process, but this is how you get up and running with Twilio. The final thing we got to set here is going to be the message that gets sent out to the shop owner. I'm going to use the option to let the model define this automatically, and this is going to be just a brief description to make it easier for the AI model to go ahead and write this notification message. So this is going to be a notification message body being sent to the auto shop owner, notifying them that they are ready to prepare a quote. This should include a colon separated list of details for what car that needs a repair and needs a quote for, as well as a link to the Gmail thread for them to view. With that description in place, that's giving our AI agent enough of a hint here how we can go forward with crafting this notification message to get sent off to our auto shop owner. Let's now move on to the final tool here, which is going to be creating the log of all actions taken by the agent. Going back to our agent system prompt here, the final step that we mentioned is going to be keeping a record of everything that the agent has done for all incoming messages received. And so record keeping, where we define a log of all interactions in Google Sheets for tracking and future analysis. This is a good practice that I'd like to follow just to make sure we have traceability into what the agent is actually doing. You don't want to hit a case where your client is saying that your agent isn't working, and then you're stuck looking at a blank screen and have no idea why this is happening. It does help to have some kind of log here of everything happening and decisions made by your agent. And so if something doesn't match what you're expected, you can see the exact setup data, like the message that was sent in that caused this weird behavior. So then you can take this test case, go back to your system prompt, and manually test this until you get it right. This allows you to iterate further while you're going through this testing phase, and when you're deployed, and when you have this agent deployed into production, it's going to make it easier to trace and fix issues that come up. So this tool is pretty simple. We're going to be using the built-in Google Sheets tool in n8n, where we're going to go ahead and connect to a single Google document that we have defined here by a URL. We're going to go ahead and select our sheet manually from this list, which is our log sheet. And then we're going to go ahead and use this operation here to append a new row. I like to map each column manually instead of just having it automatically mapped out, just to have finer granularity of control over the data getting passed through. And then I set each of these fields, such as timestamp, sender, subject, message preview, and action taken, all as defined automatically by the model, and then I pass in a description for each. So there you have it. That is the full build out here for our Auto Shop Repair Gmail agent. Hope you found this helpful, and be sure to join the school community if you want to download this n8n template and get the full system prompt I used here.
All right, before you go, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Seriously, do it, because we're gonna be breaking down all of the AI automations that we use to run all of our businesses. They're super helpful, and we're gonna break down exactly how we do them on this YouTube channel. So make sure like and then subscribe, and then you'll get notified when we publish new workflows that can make your businesses run 20 times more efficiently, just like we're seeing here at The Recap and the other businesses that we're running. The other item is join our school community for free. The link's in the description. You'll be able to get this template, this automation that we just ran through in this video, completely for free. You can go to school and navigate to the video that you want, and then you can download the JSON output for the n8n automation. With that, you can upload it into your n8n, clone it, and then tune it for your business and your use cases. So like and subscribe, join our free community to get this automation for yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.